Well, with the Super Bowl on Sunday right here on KOAM, we are going to be broadcasting one of the most incredible Super Bowl broadcasts you might have ever seen. And this morning to talk to us about this is George Hoover, who worked for a very long time with NEP Broadcasting, among other companies and entities that we would partner with. I mean, your technical background, George, it's unmatched in so many ways. And so you're the perfect person to explain to us what we can expect this year, because the number of cameras is absurd, man.
Thanks for the compliment. There are a lot of cameras, and typically Mike Arnold, the director for the game, will normally during the season has about 30 cameras that he works with. Here, the CBS PR machine is telling us there's going to be over 120. Now, digging in a little bit to what they are, probably about 20 of those are really related to pre and post game. So Mike Arnold doesn't have to worry about those. But he's got his typical 25 key game cameras that are stretched out along one side of the field, 20-yard line, 50-20, and then on the opposite side of the field so you can get that reverse angle look. There'll be some cameras on the sideline on big camera cranes. One of the innovations that we've started to see this year is if you look at the end zone, those little orange pylons in the corner of each end zone. Each one of those pylons has 4 cameras in it, pointed down the sidelines and the goal line in the opposite direction. Those are all recorded. Mike never takes them live, but he has the ability to go back and review those with his production team if there's one of those 32 cameras really shows a difference. 2 of those cameras are also mounted on the line markers looking across the field, so it gives you a better view of feet crossing over the first down line. That's pretty cool. 18 of the cameras are robotic cameras, and you see those typically in the cameras mounted in the end zone. Those are most likely run by a majority of them by operators who are not in the stadium or in the trucks, but in distant cities or working from home just to deal with that COVID thing. We're all used to those marvelous shots from the Skycam, the wireless camera that lets the camera hover directly over the quarterback, looking down the field. This year, CBS has 4 of them, and probably a slew of people that are doing air traffic control to keep them from running into each other. That's going to be interesting to see how they choreograph that.
Wow.
In recent years, we've used a number of high-resolution cameras that shoot high speed, higher frame rate, 250, 300, 400 frames a second, and allow Mike and the production team to zoom in to something that was previously recorded. Because the cameraman, he has to frame the player head to toe. But if you get to that situation where you want to know the player stepped out, you need to be able to zoom into something that was previously recorded. So the high resolution cameras give them the ability to zoom in almost as many as 8 times. There's 2 really interesting, cool cameras that people have started to see and comment on since around Thanksgiving that are handheld cameras that normally catch those sort of glory shots in the end zone with the guy who just caught the ball.
Right.
And you get really nice close-up with all the rest of the back room fading away. It makes it look like you're in a Madden video game.
Right. These are the Venice cams, right?
Yeah, and people really like that. I mean, it's the industry folks spotted it, what you would expect. But the interesting thing, the fans were commenting. It was all over social media. What are they doing? What's that camera? I love that shot. So we'll see that with 2 cameras, 1 in each end zone this year. And then one of the really interesting things, because there's hardly anybody in the stands, 8 rows up on the main camera side of the field where the announcers are, there's a new trolley cam, which is a rail that runs the length of the field with a camera mounted on it. That camera can move from one end of the end zone to the other at 65 miles an hour.
Oh my Lord.
So it can really chase the player along without having to dodge coaches and sideline people, and it'll be high up. So that's going to be an interesting shot and a first.
Right, but George, 65 miles an hour. I mean, Tyreek Hill can't run 65 miles an hour. Why did they design it to go that quickly?
Well, of course, the same technology is used for horse racing and auto racing. So once you figure out how you're going to do that for other things, it does give you the ability to get to the other end zone in a big hurry. And then all those cameras are recorded. So there's a whole cadre of production assistants and producers who are looking at all those cameras to let the game guys know, hey, we've got a really interesting replay angle here, because obviously the game director can't look at 120 cameras constantly and know what's going on. And then, of course, lots of new augmented virtual reality graphics. All the bells and whistles are there. As I say, the challenge is to not lose sight of game coverage with
Right.
all the cool stuff. I would be remiss in not talking a little bit about audio. All my audio friends will always get upset because everybody talks about the pictures. And what is television but radio with pictures? Because there's nobody in the sounds, it really gives them stands. It really gives the mixer the opportunity to hone in without so many distractions. Every one of those cameras virtually has a microphone, and there are parabolic microphones on the sideline. So, that gives the people at home a much more sense of being in the stands. And of course, crowd sound has been augmented for the last couple of years. Last season, that may drive you crazy or not, but it does make it feel more like a stadium presence at home.
Wow. Well, George, we really, really appreciate you taking the time to share all of this with us. It's so easy to take for granted these broadcasts that millions of dollars are poured into, and we just sit at home and turn on the TV. But to sort of get a little insight into that is pretty special. It makes you appreciate what we're going to see on Sunday night a little bit more.
Well, thanks for talking to me, and enjoy the game on Sunday.